When you think of an Android TV stick, what do you think of? What comes to mind? Chances are you'll probably think of the Amazon Fire Stick. It is a very well-known and wildly popular device that people are using for all kinds of different reasons. But at that price, is it the best you can buy? Well, we're going to be having a look today at the H96 Pro. Now, this is a TV stick, much like the Amazon Fire TV Stick. It's also around the same price, but it's running an Amlogic octa-core S912 processor. It's got 2GB of RAM. It's got plenty of onboard storage for apps and things like that. So we're going to be taking a look at it today. We're going to unbox it, look at what you get in the box, then we're going to boot it up, and we're going to be taking a look at the firmware. We're going to see how well Android runs on it, because it's boasting the latest Android 7.1 firmware, and we're going to be firing up some games, playing some video on it, looking at things like Kodi and how well it runs on there as well, and we're just going to put it through its paces and all the usual stuff we do here at these reviews. And we're going to be thinking, is this going to be better value for money than the Amazon Fire TV Stick? I've got a feeling that it is, so let's get on with it, guys. My name's Scott, and welcome to the MXQ Project. So welcome back, everybody. I'm here with the H96 Pro, and we're going to get on with unboxing it. We'll talk a little bit about the packaging first. It kind of comes in a standard cardboard box. It feels quite cheap, and it's kind of rough and coarse. And yeah, just very cheap feeling, and it's this horrible kind of mustard yellow colour. I'm not entirely sure if that's coming up properly on the camera, but it's this horrible mucousy mustardy yellow, and I'm not too impressed with it. The redeeming quality of this, though, is the text on the front. The H96 Pro logo is quite well done. It's kind of this metallic embossed effect, and it's really nice, and it's a really good effect, which unfortunately is just let down by the sheer hideousness of the rest of the box. But it is only packaging. It doesn't really matter too much. I'm just a bit of a stickler for that sort of thing. But let's get this open and let's have a look at what we're going to get inside. So here is the H96 Pro stick itself, and just holding it and looking at it, it feels very lightweight and really small and compact, which is nice. Not as small as, say, the Amazon Fire TV stick, but this stick itself has actually got a lot more inside of it in terms of hardware and connectivity, so it gets away with it because it's got more internals there. It feels like it's made out of quite a cheap plastic. I wouldn't go as far as to call it flimsy. It does feel quite sturdy, but it feels quite cheap as well. But it's a cheap stick, so you're not going to get any more for that, really. But yeah, it's a nice stick. It feels nice and lightweight. So if we turn it on its side here, we have the micro SD card slot, which is nice, because we can do some dual booting. If you wanted to install LibreELEC or Linux or something like that onto it, then we could be able to do that in theory. And we also have the micro USB port on the side here, which is interesting because this is actually where we're going to power the device from. Now, a lot of these boxes come with 5-volt power supplies that are separate from anything else, but this one is actually USB powered, which is good. And if we look on the bottom here, we've got two separate USB 2.0 ports as well, so we can connect some other stuff up if we wanted to connect a keyboard and mouse or an external hard drive or an air mouse or something like that, or a game controller. You're going to be able to do that as well. So overall, it's a really nice looking stick. It's certainly not the best build quality I've ever seen, but it's not the worst either. I've had an even cheaper stick that we've looked at before, the MK809B rock chip stick, and that was very cheap. There was bits snapping off of it, and this is 10 times better, so I'm really pleased with how it looks. So here we have the manual for the H96 Pro. It's a standard manual, as you'd come to expect with devices like this. It's not very interesting. It's slightly better than some of the other manuals that I've seen with these boxes and sticks. It's quite well illustrated, for example, so some more care's gone into that than some of the others, but it's not very interesting, so let's move straight on. And here we have a HDMI extender. This is pretty common to come with these devices, and it's pretty self-explanatory. If you've got a TV in an awkward position, maybe it's wall-mounted or right up against a wall, and your HDMI ports are in the back of the TV, then it's going to be pretty awkward to plug a TV stick into it. So the extender is just going to give you a bit more maneuverability and a few more options of how you can position this and make it easier for yourself. The funny thing is with this, it's actually got a protective cap on the end of the HDMI extender. Now, that's absolutely fine, that's a good thing to have, but I would have expected to have one of those on the device itself as well, which it didn't. So it's kind of bizarre why they would choose to protect the extender but not the device itself. But anyway, let's move on. Here we have the standard mains adapter. You can choose which one of these you get when you buy the box itself if you're buying from a good seller, so you can get one that's going to work wherever you are in the world. This is a 2-pin European one, for example. Not going to work for me because we use 3-pin plugs in the UK, but I don't get a choice when we get sent these boxes out to review from the suppliers. And last but not least, we've got the micro USB cable. It's pretty self-explanatory. This is going to be used to power the device itself using the adapter I've just shown you. Not much else I can say about that. Now, you may be wondering why I haven't shown a remote control yet, and that's because this device doesn't actually come with one, or at least there wasn't one in the box that I got. I'm not sure why this is. I don't know if it's just a cost-cutting measure or something like that. It's not a massive deal for me because I find that the remotes that come with these boxes as standard are just really kind of crap anyway, and they don't really work very well. So I'm going to be using a USB Air mouse with this. Now, we at the MXQ project, we swear by these USB Air mice. They're really cool. You've got the standard remote functions on it. It's got the mouse pointer function, and it's got keyboard built into it as well. This may be a massive drawback to a lot of you, though, if you like to use the little remotes that come with them, but I would encourage anyone that's using one of these remotes for any type of box to ditch it and get yourself a USB Air mouse. If you can't get hold of one of them, they are pretty cheap, but if you don't have one or you can't get hold of one, a keyboard or mouse will work as well, or even a gamepad on this thing. So it's not going to be a massive issue for me, but it might be for you. Anyway, that brings us to about the end of the unboxing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to power up the device and we're going to take a look at the firmware. We're going to see how this thing runs properly. So I've booted up the H96 Pro TV stick and I'm presented with this launcher here. It's by no means the worst launcher I've ever seen, but it's far from my favourite as well. But everything there that you would need is there. So you've got tabs for your settings and your apps and your browser and Google Play. It also comes with Netflix and YouTube pre-installed on this stick, and that's represented by these two big graphical tabs here on the launcher. So first things first, let's go into the settings and verify what version of Android we're actually running. So if we click on settings and go to about, we can see that it says 7.1.2, which is the latest version of Android, which is great. So we're running a really updated operating system and everything's going to work really well and nice and smooth. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to boot up Kodi and we're going to take a look at Kodi in action, have a look at the RAM usage and the CPU usage. Okay, so I've loaded up Kodi and it's booted into it fairly fast. I didn't really expect anything less, to be completely honest. Yeah, everything's really quick and really smooth, and you can get in and out of these menus at ease. So we're going to go into settings now, we're going to look at the system information, and we're going to see what kind of a toll just running this application is having on the CPU and the memory usage. So if we come into here, into system information, and we can see down here at the bottom that system CPU usage is right down. Don't forget this is an octa-core processor, so running a program as simple as Kodi's not going to use that much CPU power at all, really. The system memory usage, that's your RAM, it's at about halfway, but let's not forget with Android there's going to be a lot of background processes running as well, and a lot of Google things are running, so it's not just Kodi taking its toll on the RAM. But to be honest, we've got a lot of RAM to spare here and everything's running great. So next up, we're going to be testing some games. But before that, we're going to run the Antutu benchmarking. And then I'm going to take a look at that score and we're going to then see how the gaming performance reflects that score that the benchmarking gives us. So I've loaded up the Antutu benchmarking application and I've downloaded the necessary files to do some of these tests because it's going to take us through a few 3D scenes. It's going to test how well the device can render and handle 3D imaging and gaming. It also tests CPU and RAM usage. So I'm going to set this off now and I'll show you bits and pieces of it, but I'm not going to show the whole thing because it can take a little while. So I'll see you at the end, guys, and we'll see how this thing does. Now what's happening now is Antutu is playing this 3D sort of scene, except it's rendering it in real time to get a gauge of how well the hardware is going to be able to render and display 3D images, such as in games, etc. Now although it doesn't look like much, don't let that fool you and don't let it put you off, because although it looks like it's very choppy and the frame rate's very low and it doesn't seem to be handling it very well, this is actually one of the better ones that I've seen. As in, I've tested this on other Amlogic S912 devices, like the high-end GT1 Ultimate, the T95Z Pro, and of course the M8S Pro, etc. All S912 devices with larger amounts of RAM and more modern RAM chips inside, but this is actually the smoothest I've ever actually seen this occur. So it'll be interesting at the end of the Antutu benchmarking to actually see what the score is going to be and how it stacks up against these much beefier devices. So the Antutu benchmarking is actually finished now, and I'm actually in shock because this little TV stick has beaten those high-end devices I mentioned earlier. It has beaten the M8S Pro, it has beaten the T95Z Plus, it has beaten the Beelink GT1 Ultimate. This has a master score of 40,161 on the Antutu benchmark test, whereas The T95Z Plus and the GT1 Ultimate scored around 38 to 39,000 points each, and it has beat them by over 1,000 points, and I'm absolutely flabbergasted. This is a tiny little $30 TV stick. Those other boxes, the GT1 for example, is an $80 or $90 box, and this little thing has beaten it hands down, which I'm really pleased about. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to fire up some Android games and some emulation, and we're going to see if we can get an even better performance out of these games than we got on those higher end devices. So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited to find out what's going to happen. Okay guys, time for some emulation now. I booted up a Dreamcast emulator called Raycast, and we're going to play some Sonic Adventure 2. The only box I got this to run on in the past was the T95Z Plus, so I'm hoping that this will run it as well. Let's just load it up and see what happens. Oh yeah, you can see straight away that this runs great. It's running absolutely beautifully, it plays beautifully, the controls work great, it's running even better than the T95Z did. This little stick, this $30 stick, just keeps continually surprising me. I can't really get my head around it. I started this review thinking I'm going to review this cheap stick. It's going to be maybe okay, maybe mediocre. It's going to match the price at least, but it's really just surpassing my every expectation with everything I'm trying with it. It's just really taking me by surprise, and it's just surpassing all my expectations for it, and it's just a really great stick, and this is just playing so well. I can't believe it. I'm probably going to end up putting off the rest of the review for a while just to play Sonic Adventure for a bit longer. But yeah, so in the next part, when I get round to it, when I get off this game, we're going to test some N64 on it as well, so stay tuned. Yeah, even the N64 is running absolutely great. This box just keeps continuing to surprise me, and I really like it when I get surprised like this. I've not seen N64 emulation, especially with GoldenEye 007 on a box that I've reviewed before, certainly, and I'm just really pleased, and it just keeps pulling all these tricks out of its hat, this little stick, and I'm so pleased with it. As you can see, it's running absolutely great. I can't get over how well this is actually running. I really wasn't expecting this. And so if you're wanting a box just for emulation, then you've found it. Just this little $30 stick. You can see Mario Kart as well here running as great as you can expect. So yeah, absolutely over the moon with this stick and the gaming performance on it. So on that note, I think we're going to leave the review there and just have a quick sum up. We've been looking at the H96 Pro TV stick. It has got an Amlogic S912 octa-core processor, that's 8 cores. It's got 2 GB of RAM, 16 GB of onboard storage. It's got a micro SD card slot, so you can expand your storage as well. It's running Android 7.1.2, and it is brilliant. When I first got told that I was going to have to review a TV stick, I was kind of umming and ahhing and complaining and sighing, thinking I'm going to have to spend all my bloody time working on and playing with a device that's just not going to do very much, and it's just going to be a drudge, and I was going to be really bored doing it. I had all those reservations, but this little piece of kit has just far surpassed all my expectations, and honestly, I am now totally in love with this thing. I would have this at home if I could, and use it as my personal box as well. So if you're wanting a really great Android experience and something really fast, and for an S912 as well at $30 to $40, it's an absolute steal. So if you've got $30 to $40 to spend and you want a new piece of kit don't look at the Fire Stick or anything like that. Get yourself a H96 Pro. I cannot stress that enough, and I cannot recommend it enough. It is brilliant. It was great at the gaming, at the emulation, at Kodi, at video playback, and everything like that. So, yeah, in conclusion, buy this stick. You will not regret it, I promise you. So, that brings us to the end of the video. Don't forget to click on the channel and have a look through our videos. Click on that subscribe button because it really helps us and it really motivates us to get more content out. Also, there's a link to the Facebook group on there. That link's also going to be in the description. So come and chat to us over on Facebook. We are more than happy to have you all there as well. And do not forget that we have got the TX2 competition still going on, guys. You can see the video on your screen just now. All you need to do is find that video, follow the instructions on the video. There's not much to it. Just subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, and leave a comment on the video. And once we hit 2,000 subscribers, we're going to be giving away one of our subscribers a TX2 Android Marshmallow TV box. So that brings us to the end of the video now, guys. My name's been Scott. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and I shall see you next time.